Yesterday in Toledo, Ohio, a George Floyd memorial was destroyed. The day was sunny with scattered clouds, yet somehow this mural collapsed. Witnesses say the mural was struck by lightning and destroyed. Doppler radar showed that a lightning strike did occur in the area. Could this be divine intervention or coincidence? I mean, a lot of people want to look at this like it's a sign. Well, the reality is, lightning strikes happen all the time, and we don't care what they hit. And the one time a lightning strike actually hits something that is political, people say it's divine intervention. But either way, it's a bit of a spooky story considering I actually went and checked the weather when I heard the story. Okay, I don't live in Toledo, Ohio. When I heard that witnesses said a lightning strike destroyed the George Floyd mural, I decided, based on these photographs, you can see here, the mural destroyed. Notice the ground. What is the ground? Did you notice anything about the sidewalk? It's dry. And I thought to myself, why is the ground and the street's a little wet. It is. But why is the sidewalk dry? I mean, was there a thunderstorm in the area? I mean, you can look, you can see, I guess, clouds in the sky. It's cloudy. But a thunderstorm? Lightning? All right. Now, I don't know about all that divine intervention stuff, but I will say one of the weirdest things are the people who comment claiming that I'm an atheist when I'm literally not. And we do full podcast episodes on timcast.com about my belief in God and all that stuff. I'm not a theist. I don't follow Christianity or any specific religion, but I absolutely believe in God. And I think it's funny when you hear people talk about simulism, that we are living upon inside this great construct created by some smarter and more advanced being or race. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, some people believe that we're in a simulation. It's all orchestrated. People joke about it, but people kind of think it's really that way, right? So I checked the weather, and I'll tell you this. When you pull up the past weather in Toledo, Ohio, you can see that on Tuesday, July 13th, it was sunny with scattered clouds. Humidity was 77%. And from 12 p.m. to 6 p.m., that was it. 73 to 70 degrees. Wow, that's a big drop from the high. And a humidity of 90%. I don't know. Maybe it was just a little burst, a little thunderstorm appeared. But doesn't that still make you think? Because even without rain, when I first saw this, I asked people like, hey, you notice the ground's dry, right? You can see the street is a little bit wet and the sidewalk appears to have been wet previously. So it rained just a little bit on a sunny day and a lightning strike hit the George Floyd mural and destroyed it. And I'll tell you this, man, people are absolutely going to tell you it's a sign. I mean, there are people posting comments saying things like, don't worship false idols and things like that. Look, I think very few people, very, very few are happy that George Floyd died. I think there's a larger portion of people who just don't care that he died. And then I think most people, the overwhelming majority, are upset that somebody died. I mean, somebody losing their life is a tragedy. But George Floyd was not a saint. He was not a good person. He was chewing a speedball behind the wheel of a car. If he started driving, he could have seriously hurt somebody. He was trying to use counterfeit money. Now, that doesn't mean he should die. I mean, I personally don't even believe in the death penalty. But he was not a good person for people to worship and to put his mural up and to build statues in his name is actually rather horrifying. It is. Here's the story from ABC 13, Action News Toledo. Witnesses George Floyd mural at Summit and LaGrange destroyed by lightning strike. But I want to show you something. I want to show you a bit of what people are saying online in terms of some kind of divine intervention. Support for Black Lives Matter. The net support for Black Lives Matter is now lower than all of the previous year. And support, general support, is now at the same levels as it was 4 years ago. Over the past 4 years, Black Lives Matter support had been going up. And it peaked massively, like 55% after George Floyd died. And now it continues to fall and opposition is skyrocketing. That is not to say that Black Lives Matter is losing all of its support, but people are being polarized to an extreme degree. ABC 13 says, a mural honoring George Floyd erected at Summit and LaGrange in Toledo has collapsed. According to Toledo police, witnesses say it was destroyed by a lightning strike. 13 ABC's Doppler radar did show a lightning strike in that block at about 4:30 p.m. on Tuesday. 4:30 p.m. Okay, come on. I pulled up the weather. Between 12 p.m. and 6 p.m., it was just scattered clouds. So here's the story. Clouds just came in on a sunny day. They were scattered and they came together. Lightning strikes the mural and then they dissipate and the rain's gone. Now, okay, man. People are going to start taking that one for sure. Toledo police were seen outside the building, which used to house the Mugshots bar, setting up tape around the pile of bricks that once formed the artwork. The mural was painted nearly 1 year to the date of its collapse. In July 2020, groups have held memorial services for Floyd in front of the mural, including on the 1-year anniversary of his death at the hands of Derek Chauvin. The building itself is structurally sound, according to a City of Toledo building inspector. The building's owner is working to clean up the bricks and tear down the rest of the mural wall. The City of Toledo has already released a statement on the mural saying they will work with the Arts Commission on planning for a new mural or help the commission and the artist find a new location, adding that they were heartbroken to see artist David Ross's work collapse. All right. So a structurally sound building on a sunny day has a scattered storm appear, strike it with lightning, destroying it, and then immediately dissipate. I tell you, man, we must be living in some kind. I don't like the word simulation. When people talk about simulation theory, I'm like, Elon Musk says we could perhaps be living in a simulation by a more advanced species or whatever, or race or something. And I'm like, that's just fancy talk for constructed reality. I'm pretty sure religious folk have been believing that for thousands of years. I don't know about none of this divine intervention stuff. The reality is sometimes lightning strikes. Lightning strikes all the time. We only talk about it when it hits the George Floyd mural, but to hit a building that's structurally sound, you heard it. I'm just saying. Well, we've got a lot of people on Twitter who are talking about this. One person tweeted, "Checkmate, atheists." Another person with a quote from Deuteronomy, "I am the Lord your God. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make yourself an idol or any likeness of what is in heaven above or on the earth beneath or in the water under the earth. You shall not worship them or serve them." I just got to point out, there are a lot of people we have memorials for. There are, you go to any city and you'll see like someone's face, like, Mark Smith, and it'll be like 1987 to like 1999 or something. And you'll see the picture of like the kid and he died. They make murals for people all the time. Now, to be fair, putting up murals for somebody is very, very different from what they're doing with George Floyd. Putting up a statue in honor of, say, George Washington is very different from what's happening with George Floyd. I mean, they're building the man's statues. They're putting up his image everywhere, and he's not a good person. Perhaps that's what people think. To actually claim it's the false idol, I think, is a bit of a stretch. One Twitter user said, "Golden calf struck down. Worship false idols, feel the wrath of God." I mean, interesting. When you put up the statue of, say, Thomas Jefferson, I mean, this is a guy who is revered for doing good things. I mean, he did bad things for the time, but ultimately set us on a course for expanding rights and doing better. George Floyd was chewing on a speedball, which is meth and fentanyl. I think it's meth and fentanyl in a car behind the wheel. He could have put people's lives at risk. And all of a sudden he has murals and statues popping up all over the place. That's creepy, man. One Twitter person said, "For all those people that don't believe in God because they need a sign, well, here's your sign." What do you think the BLM people are saying? Do you think they're claiming that this is an act of God? Check out the latest. Let's go into the polls. All right, let's go into the polls. Here we go. Civics. When Derek Chauvin was convicted, support for Black Lives Matter actually went down. And I know why. Or at least I can say, I believe I know why. But we'll get to that in a second. Take a look at this. You go all the way back to 2018. You can go back to 2018, April. 0% net support. It rises up to about 5%. Then, in the beginning of January 2020, it was at 9%. We see Breonna Taylor's death. It hits 11. It goes up. We then see the COVID data by race. It goes up. We then get George Floyd's death. And it goes way up. And it hits 24% net support. And then what happened? Riots. Everything starts tumbling down. People are outraged. Net support starts plummeting. There's some context here, so just bear with me. Jacob Blake gets shot. Football players put his name on their helmets. This is a guy who had just assaulted a woman in her bed, disgustingly, and had her kids in his car and was about to flee. And he grabbed a knife. And people were praising and honoring. I mean, these people have lost their way. You don't got to believe in God to think these people are absolutely on the dark path. Then you can see that after that, it plummeted again. Now, you want to know why? In my opinion, after Derek Chauvin was convicted, support for Black Lives Matter, net support now falls to 3%. Regular people can see what's happening in places like Minneapolis. They can see what the aftermath of the George Floyd riots was. And I'm sure many people are now looking at that as a sign. They're looking at what happened. Regular people, maybe even not even staunch religious folks saying like, man, I don't know about all that. That freaks us out, right? It always does. When Derek Chauvin was on trial, you had Maxine Waters show up and say, if we don't get what we want, we'll come out and push even harder. And they were already smashing windows and burning buildings down. People had already died. 23 people died in these riots. She comes out and says, more. During the trial, riots erupted in Brooklyn Heights. It's part of Miami, basically. It's part of Minneapolis, not Miami, a little bit north of Minneapolis. People were rioting. One of the jurors lived in that area. The jurors had to be escorted into the courthouse with police officers bearing machine guns because of the threat of violence against them. Some of the jurors expressed that they feared retaliation if they actually acquitted Derek Chauvin. You look at the evidence presented in court, and I think objective legal analysts were saying there's no way this is going to fly. But it was political. The people in that trial turned back that verdict instantly. What do you think a regular person thinks? You can't trust the media for the most part. For the most part. Regular people can see through the BS. So support for BLM starts declining after Chauvin is convicted. You'd think it would go up. I mean, you have the video being played back to back to back every single day. The media was talking about Derek Chauvin, this bad guy. Yet people were turning on Black Lives Matter because they've said no to this. But let's show the general trend lines. Now, that was net support. So that's a combination of all support and opposition, et cetera. And it shows you the general sentiment in this country, but it doesn't show the context of polarization. Because here's what matters. You look at the current level of support, 45%, and you go back to 2018 and support was only at 39%. At the beginning of the year, support for Black Lives Matter was 42%. So general support is still higher right now than it was in January 2020 at 42%. But you see what happened? You've ignited anger in people. Two things occurred. You can see that the support started going up, and the people who didn't neither support nor oppose were like, whatever, slowly went up as well to about 25% before George Floyd was killed. And then all of a sudden, opposition spikes down, support goes way up, but then opposition starts rising. You know why? Almost immediately, riots erupted. And those who neither supported nor opposed started now opposing. And those who supported are now opposing. You have a combination of support and apathy combining into opposition to Black Lives Matter. And over the past year, it has only been going up. Currently, opposition to Black Lives Matter is at 42%. In 2018, it was at 39%. Well, Black Lives Matter is still enjoying 45% support to 42% opposition, with 11% saying abstain, basically. That's actually worrying. It's hyperpolarization. This is what leads people to ultimately, I don't know, man, start fighting in the streets, I guess. Things potentially could get a lot worse. But I want to highlight the aftermath of what's happened with Black Lives Matter riots and where it brings us now, because I said something. I said I wasn't a fan of this anti-riot bill in Florida because it makes it a felony to block streets. A lot of conservatives said, don't block streets. And I said, sure, no, I respect that. But a felony for doing it? Look, when someone blocks a street, it's a misdemeanor. You come and you arrest them. Make it a Class A misdemeanor. You know, it's just like 6 months or up to a year in jail and like a $2,500 fine, depending on the state. I don't know what Florida does. In Illinois, that's what it is. So make it a Class A misdemeanor. Don't destroy someone's life for standing in a street for protest. And they said, people shouldn't be blocking these streets. It's obstruction. I said, okay. I hear the argument. I get it. I just have a differing opinion. The issue is, I think too many people viewed that through the lens of Black Lives Matter, and they didn't realize other protests exist as well. Now, to be fair, we got the story. Newsweek says Ron DeSantis' anti-BLM protest law backfires with Cuban American protests. No, it doesn't. How is it backfiring? I will say this. I don't think those protesting in support of Cuba should have felonies for standing in solidarity with those who would challenge a communist dictatorship. However, they shouldn't be blocking streets. But that's why I think a misdemeanor is fine. You say, guys, we get it. You're mad about the Castro regime and the new president of the Communist Party, and you want to show your support. But why disrupt Miami and Tampa? Stand out, do your rally, have the media see you. Let the people of Cuba know you support them, but don't shut down roads to do it. You're not mad at the United States. You're happy with the United States. Now what? Are they going to give these people felonies? That's not appropriate. When Black Lives Matter comes out and they stand in a street, I do not think they should get felony charges for this. I don't agree with them. I think we are seeing something just very strange, call it a coincidence, call it whatever you want. Sure. But I think when you look at this stuff, you got to recognize we don't always agree on what is right and what is wrong. And there's going to be a lot of protests. There's going to be a lot of movements, and some will agree with and some we won't. For Black Lives Matter to go out and block a street, I say, keep it proportional. When they want to throw bricks, give them the felonies. When they're throwing bricks and smashing things and attacking people, you give them their felonies for riot, destruction, gang violence, all that stuff. But when it's a bunch of regular people, but regardless of their ideology, walking through the streets or blocking the streets, you come in, you tell them to get off the streets, you arrest those who won't, they get slap on the wrist charges, and you escalate. Someone who's never committed a crime, they say, okay, we're going to give you obstructing a roadway. It's a misdemeanor. We're going to give you disorderly conduct. Instead, they can look at felonies. Newsweek reports Cuban American protesters shut down a section of the Palmetto Expressway in Miami, Florida on July 13th to demonstrate unity towards the unrest taking place in Cuba. We said we have to stop, and we have to stop on the Palmetto. That's where we're going to get attention for the people. These are Cuban Americans. These are Cubans. People are suffering on the island. They're dying. And it's not because of COVID. They're dying because they're killing them. And for the first time in 60 years, that island has flipped upside down. They said that Camagüey has been taken over by the Cuban people. On April 29th, Ron DeSantis signed an anti-riot bill in the wake of the George Floyd riots. The bill states that protesters could be arrested if a gathering could be considered a riot, also deems blocking a freeway as a felony, and gives full immunity to persons who drive through protesters that are blocking a roadway if they're fleeing violence. DeSantis received a considerable amount of pushback from Democrats who felt that the bill was unfair and targets black and brown communities disproportionately. That is the most insane lie. Nowhere in the bill did it say it was going after minorities. It's a lie. That's the game they play. Upon signing the bill, DeSantis stated the bill is needed to protect Florida residents. Just think about it. You're driving home from work and all of a sudden you have people out there shutting down a highway. We worked hard to make sure that didn't happen in Florida. They start to do that. There needs to be swift penalties. The bill protects monuments from being torn down. So we know that. We know that. I don't think the police are going to go around and arrest all of these pro-Cuba demonstrators anyway. So they're not going to face charges. But that's the thing you got to consider. I will say, man, watching what's been going on with the left, it has felt rather biblical in a certain sense. I don't mean like actual Christianity. I just mean like, man, we are watching evil rot and decay destroy the system. The left says the same thing about Trump, but Trump's just some kind of symptom of the pushback, of the rage to try and stop the rot and the decay within our system. We have a Navy now, it's been reported, that has prioritized diversity over actual combat training. We are being weakened from the inside out. You have people putting up monuments to a felon. I mean, I think he's a felon. He's a criminal, a guy at the very least who is committing felonies, chewing on these drugs and having drugs in his system, like serious amounts of these drugs. I'm not happy he lost his life, but come on. You have people who are worshiping vice and not virtue while they claim to be espousing virtue. But they're intolerant, hate-filled, angry, entitled. It is a decay. I think about what is good and and I think protecting the earth and protecting life. I think being responsible, being self-sustainable, helping that equilibrium. Humans aren't good at a lot of that. Seems like things have just been getting worse and worse. I know that story of Sodom and Gomorrah, you know? I wonder if there ever is going to be some kind of biblical reckoning on the corruption of these cities as they grow and fester and engage in, just call it vice, you know? Now, I certainly believe in freedom. I believe people have a right to be free, to do what they want, to pursue happiness. And some people pursue happiness in ways that other people don't, which is why I respect BLM protests, so long as they're actually protests. That's why I say we should let them protest. Blocking a street, civil disobedience. Okay, you got there, you do it, you get arrested, and we take you to jail, and you get out, and you're going to have to pay fines, and there'll be jail time if you keep doing it, things like that. But now, man, it's kind of the point where they lie every day. The media just lies about everything. They smash windows. They call it peaceful. There's a building being burnt to the ground and destroyed, and they call it peaceful. I don't believe in the Christian religion. I do believe in God, however. And I view our sort of purpose in existence is to collect energy and organize it in various ways. It's a very simple way of explaining it. It's what all life basically does, from self-replication to manipulation of the environment to then humans creating abstract thought. We take free energy and we organize it into more complex systems. Granted, entropy always seems to win out in the end, but it does feel like life serves a function. When I see life on a large scale begin doing the opposite, destroying and ripping things apart, being a fire or a rot, it worries me that this portion of life is acting against the natural order, I guess you could call it. I'm not saying humans have to follow any natural order or anything like that. You can just see that trees grow, they absorb energy from the sun, they absorb carbon dioxide from the air and nutrients from the soil, and they grow and they expand and they become more and more complicated. They create big forests. Humans build things. But then you have these people on the left that destroy things. They're deconstructing language. They're deconstructing ideas. They are the antithesis of everything human life and life on this planet has been doing for some time. From rampant destruction. They claim to be environmentalists, but they're the ones who live in these big cities that are committing all the pollution. They destroy language. They destroy abstract thought. They destroy the environment. They destroy buildings. They destroy creation. Something about that. So when I see a lightning strike, I don't know about no simulism or God or divine whatever, but it certainly gives me pause, to say the very least. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I will see you all then.